If you rely mainly on training to develop your body, there are some principles which are undeniable. They have been repeated for so many times with so many bodybuilders over the decades, for over 70 years now. Arnold, Serge Nubre, Sergio Oliva, Frank Zane, they still relied on training as the most important factor for growth. We cannot say that for modern bodybuilders, because modern bodybuilders rely primarily on exogenous compounds, steroids, growth hormone, insulin. And if you rely on them as the main factor for growth, then you will get away with any type of training. You can do low sets, high intensity, super high intensity. You'll probably destroy all your tendons and ligaments, as so many did, because this is not the way to go. This is not what human body is made for.
I threw one podcast out, and one of my faithful listeners kept pinging me in the comments saying I had to get you on the show. So I started doing some digging into your content, and I'm excited for this conversation because I feel like I've just been inundated, and you could probably relate with this, with all of the quick fixes and hacks and shortcuts that are popular right now. And when I look back at what all I've done that's led to my success as a natural bodybuilder, it's all been from playing the long game, consistent effort, habits, routines, putting in work with intensity. But there's so much dialogue right now about peptides and, high intensity interval training for, 10 minutes per workout session, one high volumes or one high intensity, low volume set. That's just so much of the conversation that I'm like, man, am I doing something wrong? But I feel like talking to you, it's going to put my mind at ease because I feel like we're cut from the same cloth in that regard.
Well, I hope too. I mean, my experience of over 40 years in bodybuilding, and obviously my scientific approach to everything I do. I'm by trade, I'm a scientist, so but a little bit different scientist. So I come from the background of golden era. When I entered bodybuilding, Arnold was still a god, and then Lee Haney came on, and those years were the proof that if you rely mainly on training to develop your body, there are some principles which are undeniable. They have been repeated for so many times with so many bodybuilders over the decades, for over 70 years now. And principles, they never change. So what is important to acknowledge is that Arnold, Serge Nubre, Sergio Oliva, Frank Zane, they still relied on training as the most important factor for growth. We cannot say that for modern bodybuilders, because modern bodybuilders rely primarily on exogenous compounds, steroids, growth hormone, insulin, IGF-1, and similar. And if you rely on them as the main factor for growth, then you will get away with any type of training. Any type of training. You can train muscle twice per week, once per week. You can do low sets, high intensity, super high intensity. You'll probably destroy all your tendons and ligaments, as so many did, because this is not the way to go. This is not what human body is made for. But if you rely on training as the major factor for muscle growth, then different principles apply. So we can talk about those principles for everybody who sees training still as the most important factor for muscle growth. I'm coming from that camp, and I've been training all my life, high volume, high number of sets, relatively high number of reps, especially for legs. And the only difference that I have employed was, and the only benefit as I see it from 90s, was actually introduction of training every muscle once per week. So this is
that's what you prefer to do?
Yes, this is the only benefit that we have got from 90s, from, let's say, Dorian Yates onwards. Everything before that, people train every muscle twice per week, which I don't agree with. And Lee Haney did every muscle maybe in 5 days. So this is why he was ahead a little bit of his time. But then people started training muscle once per week, even on high amount of steroids and other hormones, which allowed them to recover more. They did not train muscle twice per week. So Dorian trained muscle once per week, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, feel heat. Everybody now is training muscle once per week because this is what we learn through experience, not through some results found in the lab or some, biased so-called scientific researches, which I don't consider at all. But this is what we learn from experience, and history and experience over the decades are the best scientific experiment because they have proven to be right in any place at any time. So you can do the same training system in Nigeria or in America or in Bulgaria. You will still be doing right, and you can do it anytime. So this is the biggest scientific experiment which cannot be ignored. So who ignores history in bodybuilding is obviously cutting the most important foundation of knowledge when it comes to bodybuilding. We have to consider what are the principles that made those guys, especially golden era, so ahead of their times. I mean, just take Arnold, for example. Arnold double biceps, nobody has surpassed so far. Even Ronnie Coleman says the same. Arnold side chest, nobody comes close. So how did Arnold do that? Dorian Yates, in order to promote his training system and to avoid the battleground, said, oh, Arnold had amazing genetics for biceps and chest. Oh, really? And what about you? You didn't have amazing genetics for chest? Yes, you did, but you didn't know how to do it. This is why your chests were not good. But Arnold did know. So how did Arnold do that? How Oliva did it? How Frank Zane did it? How Franco Colombo? How Serge Nubret did it? What all these people who had great chests did it? It's not just genetics. It's a ridiculous excuse. But they did something, and that something was high volume. Anywhere from 25 to 40 sets per muscle group, per large muscle group per week. And this is what they did. This is what it is. So this is one of the principles, right, that you asked for, and I can discuss it more in detail now, explain scientifically why that works, but let's continue. This was the first, obviously, question, so I just wanted to address
Yeah,
that.
definitely. I want to flesh that out for sure, because you said, so in the 90s when they transitioned from targeting a muscle group once a week as opposed to twice a week, and we could speak in the realms of natural athletes because, as you said, when you're taking a bunch of gear, that kind of changes the rules, so to speak. So what is the benefit to training one muscle group once per week rather than twice a week as a natural lifter? Just the recovery time?
This especially applies to natural lifters. I have a lot of clients who are natural. My son is natural. You can see my son in my videos on Instagram. I post pictures of him. He's 25 years old. He's 97 kgs, super lean, massive, always natural. He doesn't even take vitamins, maybe once a week when he remembers. So how is he doing this? What did he do? So he followed my advice, which was always once a week. So this is absolutely necessary for natural bodybuilder. And the reasons for that, now this applies for naturals and also people who are enhanced. The reasons for that are the following. People misunderstand that if muscle recovers between 48 and 72 hours, which is true, you can train this muscle again. But what I don't know is that when you're training, let's say chest, you're not just training major pectoralis muscle, you're training the whole unit. And that unit is made of connective tissues too. So you have massive tendons there, you have ligaments, you have other muscles joining, shoulder joints, shoulder ligaments, a very complex unit. So when you're thinking about training one muscle group, you're actually training one muscle unit, okay? Which is made of what? Is made of muscle and is made of connective tissues. Now, the problem is that connective tissue needs anywhere from 5 to 7 days to recover. So muscle recovers 28 to 72 hours, 2 to 3 days. And if you feel your muscle is ready, so I'm going to train this again, but your connective tissue didn't recover. And this is where training twice per week brings problems. And you're going to get injured. Maybe not necessarily in a single session, but you will accumulate injury over time and something will go wrong. And that happened to me when I was training every muscle twice per week. And then when I moved to training every muscle once per week, I was so recovered, I was so fresh, so willing, so motivated to go into, again, the same training session. That was unbelievable. And I was completely free of injuries. Now, when there is something else there which requires 5 to 7 days to recover, and this is CNS, central nervous system. So you need to recover the whole system before you hit that particular muscle group again. If you don't, you will run into serious problems. And this is why people on a daily basis come to me and say, oh, Nash, my elbow is hurting, my shoulder, I don't know what happened, something happened. I know what happened. I know exactly what happened. And then I explained to them. They say, oh, but I wasn't really doing that. I mean, it's so many proofs around. Everybody's got shoulder problem, burst impingement, what is called tennis elbow, many different knee problems because they're not allowing the whole system to recover. So unless your whole system recovers, you should not be hitting that muscle again. So when I say 7 days, this is the point of reference. That doesn't mean that somebody is not fully recovered in 6 days or in 8 days, but we need to start from somewhere. From my experience, I found it for myself, most of my clients, my son, every muscle once per week is the recipe for longevity, for prosperity, for increase in size and increase in strength.
Gotcha. Okay, so with that in mind, if we're building out a hypothetical program with a focus on hypertrophy more so than strength, how would you structure, like with your son, for instance, what kind of program split do you have him going through?
Well, there are different options, different splits. The good split is, let's say, to do chest and biceps day 1. Day 2, you do legs, you do quads, hamstrings. Day 3, you do off. Day 4, you do calves and back. And day 5, which will be 4th session, you do shoulders and triceps. So this would be the best program. And then you have Saturday, Sunday off. There are other obviously options, but I favor this one because it gives you full recovery and best rest for muscle groups that they may join certain large muscle groups. So people are always saying as well, oh, but you're doing shoulders and triceps on Friday and then chest on Monday. Wouldn't shoulders and triceps interfere with chest workout? Well, not at all. Simply because when you're doing chest, you should be doing chest. You shouldn't be doing triceps and shoulders, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we come now to biomechanics. We come out to right way of training, perfect way of training. And if you do chest properly, you will use your triceps and your shoulders, all right, up to the point,
Mm-hmm.
but you will never train them. Why? Because if you do chest properly, you will never have full extension and full contraction of your triceps. But if you do chest wrongly, then you will be training more your triceps than your chest. And then everything interferes with everything. So once you're out of that perfect way of training, I mean, there is no room for discussion anymore because you're doing everything wrong. There is nothing to change. And when you do back, for example, you shouldn't be using your biceps. People are doing back, stressing more their biceps and brachioradialis and brachialis rather than latissimus or teres major, teres minor, because they don't know how to do it. But if you do back properly, you will never train your biceps. You will use it, but you will never train. So to properly stimulate growth, you have to fully train the muscle. When it comes to biceps, for example, you need full extension and full contraction, concentric and eccentric part of the repetition. You will never have that when you do back, if you do back properly.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the legs go, you've got it all in one day. Some people will break up and do like hamstring focus one day, quad focus one day, but you're putting all legs in one day. And if you're doing that many sets, like how many different exercises are you doing on a given day, for instance?
I did legs yesterday, so I'll tell you what I do. I always start with calves because I train calves sometimes twice per week. I did 5 sets standing calf raises and I did 5 sets of seated calf raises. I did yesterday, I started with squats. I did 6 sets of squats. I did 6 sets of leg press and I did 3 sets of leg extensions. And after that, I did 5 sets of leg curls. And everything was done in 50 minutes. Right?
50.
50, yeah. 50
Okay.
minutes, less than an
Not a
hour.
super long rest set in between sets. Not a whole lot of time in between sets, really.
No, because I'm training. I'm not wasting my time. So if you're resting too long, you're in a different sport. Powerlifters rest too long because they need full recovery of the muscle for the next set. They don't care how big the muscle is going to be. They only care how much they can lift. And for that, yes, you need to rest 3, 4, 5 minutes. They train an hour and a half in the gym where I am. And while I perform 30 sets for legs, they perform 5, 6 sets doing squats. So they're completely different sport. Now, people, because they're lazy, most people are lazy, they would rather rest longer. So they said, oh, I can't, there is no way I can finish all these sets in an hour and a half. I said, wait a little bit. Why don't you just think for a minute, right? For a change, just think. 30 sets, right? 30 seconds per set in average. This is 900 seconds, right? How many minutes is that? 15. So if you're in the gym 1 hour and 15 minutes, what are you doing for 1 hour? Having good time, talking, walking, having coffee, lemonade or something, whatever. What are you doing for 1 hour? Your actual workout is 15 minutes. My workout is 15 minutes, and I rest 30 minutes on top of that, and I'm out in 45 minutes, 50 minutes max. I don't know what you are doing, but we are not doing the same sport. And this is where
Do you
people
have a?
don't
Go
understand.
ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
This is what people don't understand. Bodybuilding workout is different game. You need to do high number of reps, high number of sets. I need to rest as little as necessary, because your workout is made of X amount of sets. And that, imagine that like a chain, right? So every set should step on the tail on the previous set, should attach to that. And that makes a chain. This is your workout. So if you're breaking that with 3-5 minutes, this is not a chain. You're not having a workout. You're having 20-30 mini workouts, and you're fully recovering for the next set. And this is not muscle exhaustion. This is full recovery, which will prepare you to do the same amount or more weight in the next set. This is not the case in bodybuilding. Arnold didn't train like that. Serge Nubre didn't train like that. Sergio Oliva didn't train like that. Nobody trained like that. And look how these people look. So this is something to understand. Very important. The session is X amount of sets with minimum rest between the sets. That's obviously arbitrary depending on your fitness level, depending on your experience, motivation, many other factors. But when I say minimum amount of rest, that will be probably anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds for upper body muscles, and for legs anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds. And that's it. And if you do that, then you will experience completely different thing. If you go on my YouTube channel and you watch my videos and read the comments, hundreds of people in last week or two have reported results, amazing results, since they started doing more sets, more reps, and started resting less. These people are genuine people. They don't know each other. There's not one team of people that is coming up. It's this, and they come with the same comments, and this is amazing. So I didn't discover anything new. I'm just looking historically, retrospectively, and trying to understand the principles that help all these guys in 70s and 80s to develop those phenomenal bodies. Everybody wants to look like Frank Zane or Serge Nubre. Everybody. Nobody wants to look like Ronnie Coleman or Dorian Yates or something like that. Nobody. Why is that? So this is another subject. But the principles that actually build all these forever amazing bodies were exactly the ones that I'm talking about. So we need to go back. We need to change our attitude, our mentality. We need to get rid of that comfort zone and choosing comfort in everything in life, including training. And then, go for short workouts, 10, 12 sets, long rest, and then you think you're doing something. You're doing nothing. I mean, I'm surrounded by the gym that I go is about 4,000 members. I mean, 99% of them, they're always the same year after year. They never change.
Yeah, probably not doing anybody any favors too when they've got their phone out Instagramming in between sets for 10 minutes at a whack. That's probably not serving them well either.
Well, if you go on my website and also channel, you will see I only talk about optimal development of muscle growth and fat loss. I'm not interested for anything else. So the reasons for going to the gym are different. Different people go to the gym for different reasons. Some people go to socialize. Some people go to do Instagram photos. Some people go to have nice time, go a little bit on treadmill, then have a meal or protein shake, have a coffee. Different reasons. Some people go for psychological reasons. But I'm not interested in all those reasons. I'm only talking about guys who are interested in optimal development of muscle tissue and optimal fat loss. I'm not everything I say is about that, nothing else.
Well,
So
that is
people,
definitely where I'm interested.
some people say, but this is hard, but this is not fun. You know, I don't I don't train my clients for fun. I don't care. I don't want to be their friend as well. You pay me for me to change you, and this is what I do. And you go on my website and you can see, scroll down, and you can see how many people change and how I change them. But I also refuse lots of clients because when I see that somebody just wants to be with me because of me, I'm not interested in that. I'm just interested in success stories. So for that, you need to have a
Mm-hmm.
right mentality. You have to be ready to commit and to be disciplined, because when I prescribe a diet, this is not for negotiation, right? You have to
Mm-hmm.
follow.
100%.
Otherwise, nothing is going
100%.
to change. Yeah.
On the note of the shorter rest sets, what's your take on supersetting different muscle groups, different exercises? Like, is that something that you weave into the program, or do you just avoid the supersets but have a relatively short rest period in between, anyways?
Well, there is no physiological explanation for a superset at all. So if you do, we know what is time under tension and how long that should be for which muscle. Muscles are different and they should be trained differently because, for example, major pectoralis and biceps brachii, they are made of different muscle fibers. They're predominantly type 2, A and B, while, for example, quadriceps is a different muscle. It's made of mixtures of different muscle fibers, so it cannot be trained the same as biceps or chest. So quadriceps responds better when the time under tension is longer. So while upper body will respond very good with the time under tension, which is anywhere from 20, 25 seconds to 40 seconds, legs will do much better from 60 to 90 seconds. So your set needs to last. When I do legs, I start, let's say, with leg press or squats. Yesterday, first set was 20 reps, and I never go less than 12. So my 20 rep set is 70, 80 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So why
It's
would
pretty
I do?
brutal.
Yeah. What is the logical explanation of superset?
Mm-hmm.
If you do one set and then you do another set, the second set is going to be a junk volume. There is no way you can do it properly with same motivation, with same drive, with same precision. Impossible. So why are you doing it?
Makes sense.
Unnecessary. It doesn't make sense. If you do everything right, but if you don't do everything right, then you're going to be flying around, and like a lost in the forest. You wouldn't know how to get out of it. So you do this and you do that, and you do drop sets and you do negatives and force reps. No physiological need for that. Arnold did it. Yeah, Arnold was experimenting with everything, but you don't have to do it. Jay Cutler didn't do it. Phil Heath didn't do it. Ronnie Coleman didn't do it. You don't have to do it. Well, if you come for different reasons, you like to enjoy, doing biceps curls, and then you jump to do a little bit of squat curls, and then you do cable curls, and you have fantastic time. Fine, enjoy it, but that's not necessary. I never did it.
Mm-hmm.
I never did it.
Makes total sense. So you're doing around 12 to 20 reps on your lower body movements, and on your upper body, what's your typical rep range there?
6 to 12.
Okay, 6 to 12. And then you're doing, as far as you mentioned, you're doing calves twice a week. Is that just because they get so much training frequency through daily walking anyways?
Well, calves are a little bit different muscles. So not necessarily I'm doing calves twice per week every week, but sometimes I feel like, I want to do it. This is that instinctive principle that some people develop over time. Obviously, you need to be experienced for that. But calves, the problem with calves is they're very dense. So in average, they have almost twice or more, depending on individual, more muscle fibers than biceps. So they have to be trained differently. And people usually train biceps more than they train their calves. Again, doesn't make any sense. Calves should always be trained first in the training session. So if you do calves and back, you do calves first, then back second. If you do calves and quads, you do calves always first. What 99% of people do, they train calves last. So when you're already dead, calves, yeah, do a few sets. I never seen anybody doing it right. This is why I never saw anybody having good calves. Not because of
Mm-hmm.
genetics, again, amazing excuse, very cheap one. But people, first of all, look, calf, the gastrocnemius muscle has very short range of motion. if you analyze that, it's a very short range of motion. It's not like biceps curl. You travel, pull ups or pull downs, you travel. So trajectory is quite long. So for calves, you're moving what, 2 inches, 2.5 inches max? So you need to do higher reps, because when you put everything together, the work that you perform is not just weight, but it's also travel, trajectory. So when you think calves, you have to go heavy weights and you have to go loads of reps.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they're just sleeping. They're just laughing at you. You're massaging them. So when I said to my son, he's very proportionate, but he needs bigger calves because I don't think he still is doing it right. I said, you need to do your calves until you get a headache. When I do 6, 7, sometimes I do 10 sets of standing calf raises, my calves explode. They're covered in veins. My legs are shredded. You can see that on the videos. And I'm not even competing. So I must be doing something right. People come to me and said, oh my God, how did you build these calves? How did I build those calves? Simple. I just did 10 sets, 12 to 20 reps each. What? 10 sets? Yes, and I'm going to do another 5, 6 sets maybe of seated calf raises. There is no magic involved. But as I said to
makes
you,
total sense.
we live in very comfortable world, which makes a lot of people very spoiled. And especially calves. Just go to the gym and look. Everybody's got biceps and shoulders and that, but look at calves. Nobody in the gym wears shorts. I wear shorts all year round, even in the winter, because I like seeing my legs and my calves. Nobody wears shorts. 4,000 people, everybody wants tuck bottoms. So you wonder, why is that? Well, the proof is in the pudding, we say, all right?
You're absolutely right. It's wild how few people actually train calves. I mean, I've been training calves daily because that's like what it takes for me to seemingly get them to grow. So I hit them like a freaking madman because I always had chicken legs. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna have chicken legs anymore. But it didn't come easy for sure. But you're absolutely right. A lot of people throw that genetics card into the mix and just ride on that wave for sure.
Well, this is the most the cheapest excuse, in fitness. If you cannot justify any wrongdoing, you say, oh, but genetically. When I started training, I didn't have any chest. I didn't have any legs. Look at my family, my brother. No, none of them is genetically gifted in those areas. I started training. I was like, I was like nothing, and then chest became my best body parts. Legs, best muscle group. Calves, you can see on the photos me standing on the stage. So how did I do this? I mean, I wasn't genetically gifted. I wasn't as Phil Heath was the gift. I was just an average person, and this is why I feel very comfortable, and I am the one who can talk about how to build muscles, because I have worked my ass off to build every single muscle. And I was winning shows because I was the most, not the biggest guy on the stage, but the most proportionate. I didn't have a weak muscle group, because this is how I saw bodybuilding. I saw it as an aesthetic phenomenon, my body as a sculpture, and I was working really hard. My legs took time to make them grow, calves especially, but I was just so adamant to obliterate them in training and then eat properly and in just waiting to see them grow. And they did grow, because there were people as well who never did calves and much quads, and they had amazing quads and amazing calves. It was good life for them, very easy. For me, it wasn't. But that didn't put me off. I just thought, you know what? I'm going to train harder than you. I remember days when I was doing squats on my own. I used to have gyms in the past. I would go 6 in the morning when nobody was there, and I would train squat. I didn't have spotter on anybody. I would put 4 or 5 plates each side doing reps because I wanted it. And that's the difference, depending on how much you want something to happen. And my major problem with young people now, not that they cannot. Everybody can. Nobody's special. We're all more or less the same. But the difference is in that want. So I'm not sure they really want as much as I used to want, or Arnold used to want, or Nubre or Sergio Oliva, because in those days, it was very, very, very important to be famous, to be something, to be better than others, to prove that you can do it. Now everybody is famous. Everybody is something.
Mhm.
Where? On Instagram. It's easy to be something.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with you, man. It's frustrating. It's like the bane of my existence for sure. I mean, I'll post a picture of me in a competition season, and I'm just inundated with flack from people, trolls on the internet that say I'm taking steroids or it's all genetics. I was 115 pounds when I started working out. Like, I didn't have genetics for it. Both my parents are scrawny. I had to work for every muscle I got, and I'm competing in natural shows, so I'm not taking gear. I'm tested for it. My total testosterone's in the tank when I'm that lean. I'm not taking anything exogenous. People just do that as a cop out to make them feel better about themselves as to why they're not reaching their goals in life. And it's just unfortunate because, especially now with the popularity of peptides and everything that's available to people, people sell themselves short. The human body is capable of so much more than they give it credit for, but it requires effort. It requires intensity. It requires, consistency. And people don't want to be uncomfortable. And that's what's keeping them from leveling up in life.
Absolutely. I just want to make one thing clear. I don't blame people taking steroids. I would like them to know before they decide to take steroids what to take, why they are taking it, how much they should take, because they are overusing it, they're abusing it these days. And this is not
Mm-hmm.
necessary. It is much easier to abuse steroids than to take, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, to take your workout as the major factor for muscle growth. So if you're a natural bodybuilder, which is absolutely fantastic, you need to understand that your training is your main dynamics for muscle growth, main reason. There is nothing else there. So you don't have any support, any hormonal support. I always like to use that example of cattle that we eat. Basically, they give them steroids in order to grow them into oblivion. But cattle, they don't go to the gym. You don't see them in the gym, don't you? Cows are not doing bench press and squats. So why are they growing? Because of steroids. So if you take steroids, especially if you abuse them, you're going to grow anyway. You don't even have to go to the gym. Proven. Steroids are given to people after the surgeries, elderly people, people who don't do any weights, and they put on weight and they lose fat. So if you want to go that way,
Mm-hmm.
then first of all, I wish you all the best. Good luck. Second, you will probably get away with most of these fancy systems and splits that people are doing nowadays. But again, if you consider your training as the major factor for muscle growth, I think you should be listening to this podcast.
100%, man. Real quick, I want to talk about nutrition, but before we switch gears, one more question on the training. A lot of people, I think this kind of comes in popularity, ebbs and flows it makes its rounds every few years. But right now, the Mike Mentzer, Dorian Yates, blood and guts, high intensity stuff is really popular. And some people take that to the absolute extreme. Well, they'll train for, no more than 10 minutes per session. They'll go in for maximum intensity on one set for one exercise and call it good, and then rest, a week in between. Why do you think, I mean, obviously that's popular because it requires so little time commitment and discomfort. It's uncomfortable in that one set instance, but not on a bigger scale. Where is the efficacy of that, or is it simply just a matter of those guys who popularized that were taking gear and were able to get away with it?
Well, I did a few videos on that subject, which a lot of people actually watched, and they're one of the most popular videos on my channel. First of all, let's start with heavy duty. Heavy duty was the biggest scam, right? Why? Because Mike Mentzer himself never did it. And this is what all his worshippers don't want to hear. Mike Mentzer never did heavy duty. Mike Mentzer was the best in 1978 when he won Mr. Universe in Acapulco with a perfect score of 100. Now, how did Mike Mentzer prepare for that show? If you ask Boyer Coe, Tom Platz, Casey Viator, and even Johnny Little, which was Mike Mentzer's biographer, they trained with him, and he did the same as everybody else. He trained for hours, did 20, 30 sets, 40 sets for muscle group. And this is why he got in the best shape ever. And this was his Mr. Universe victory, 1978 in Acapulco. After that, Mike Mentzer started thinking business. He was a very clever guy, and he realized that not many people have time to go and spend 2 hours in the gym every day, sometimes twice per day, and do 40 sets per muscle. So that was not really a good sellable marketing line. So he came to something else. He offered heavy duty training system, which will be 1 set per exercise, every muscle trained once in 7 days, training sessions 10, 15 minutes. This was very, very attractive option, because especially office people who have the lunch break and they have money as well to buy things, unbelievable marketing. You see, he didn't have AI then, but he was clever. So he offers something that promises heaven and actually asks for nothing. So you go 4 times per week in the gym, 15, 20 minutes, and you're going to be like Mike Mentzer, who was actually doing 20, 30, 40 sets per muscle group. And people bought it. And then, in order to make it more attractive, he continued with that nonsense. And he ended up saying that all you need to do is 1 training session per muscle group per month. So you do chest first week of April, and then you do it again first week of May. And that even sold even more. And now people are still believing in this nonsense. I mean, it's ridiculous. There is no such a thing, 1 set per exercise. It will never work for anybody. Started from, what was his name? Nautilus guy. It's just the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I drew a blank up. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I started with him. People went training with him, Boyerko, Arnold, Sergio Oliva, and they all got smaller. So they abandoned that project immediately. So Mike Mentzer continued with that, and obviously it's pleasing. It's easy. It's very much easier to do 1 set of 10 reps, let's say, put 3, 4 plates and do 1 set of squats of 10 reps with that weight. It's 10 times easier than to do 2 plates and do 5, 6 sets, 20, 30 reps each. So who doesn't believe? Go and try that. I did it. I do more than 20 reps. Leg press, I start from 30 reps. So go once and do 30 reps for leg press and try to do 5, 6 sets like that. And then come back to me and say, what is easier, to do that or to put 10 plates each side and do 10 reps, usually half reps and with lots of momentum and stuff. Of course, that heavyweight 1 set is much, much easier. And this is why people prefer to do that. And this is why that took off. When it comes to Dorian Yates, that 1 set to failure is only the first part of the sentence. But usually sentence starts after that word but every exercise has never been done in 1 set. I've seen Dorian Yates myself when he was doing 25 sets for legs in his gym in Birmingham. And what about that? And he was the best actually then. That was 92. So Dorian would do 3, 4 sets, 5 sets sometimes per exercise. But last set will be the hardest set, maybe with few force reps. So if you have 4 sets for back or 5 exercises for back, 4 sets each, in reality, this is 20 sets. Yes, it's true that the last set of every exercise was all out, but they were not 4 sets or 5 sets. They were 20, 25 sets. So I don't know what people are talking about, but people like worshiping, right? They choose a subject, they start believing in aliens or something like that, and that's it. They exist. Oh, but we never seen them. It doesn't matter. I like the idea. But Dorian, 1 set to exercise. Yes, 5 sets, that's it. But actually it's not. So Dorian Yates himself never did 5 sets, 4 sets per muscle group. It was 20, 40, 20, 25 sets. 1 set all out. Now, what I believe, and I know Dorian personally, and I told him that, I don't think that he had to do that. He had amazing genetics.
The failure set? You didn't have to do the failure set?
No, not at all. This was not necessary. Because what happened? He had genetics. He was taking tremendous amount of everything. And he would still be the same Dorian Yates, even if he didn't do that famous all-out set. That all-out set was the reflection of Dorian's character. He wanted to prove to himself something, whatever. This is his secret. And he wanted to do it like that. He's a very nice guy, very closed, introvert. He's not, nowadays he talks a little bit more, but years when I was close to him, he didn't talk much. You couldn't get much words out of his mouth. He was very closed, very focused on everything he was doing, very disciplined. He was living by the clock. But this all-out nonsense cost him hip surgery, torn triceps, both shoulders damaged massively. If he didn't do this, I believe Dorian would win 10 Mr. Olympias. With his discipline, with his balance, muscular development and everything. He won 6. The last one in 97 was very debatable because Nasser El Sombati, who was also my friend, good friend, he was much better. But anyhow, Dorian had 5 Olympias in the pocket, so obviously that was playing on his side. He won that last year, but he was already damaged. His triceps was damaged, biceps was, one arm was hardly there, very small. You could have seen his quads were also torn. He was absolutely taken apart by his nonsense approach. If he didn't do it, I'm positive that he would continue. I believe he would win 10 Mr. Olympias. Not even Ronnie Coleman would do it because of his character, of his discipline. But then did he pay the price? He is now glorifying this, going to failure, one set, obviously promoting his business, whatever. He has right to do it. On the end of the day, he's 6 times Mr. Olympia, so he's going to say or argue against him. But, if you argue rationally, if you put arguments on the table, then you can argue with anybody. You can argue with God himself. This is what God gave us. As humans gave us mind, give us reason. So if you can bring arguments, if you can explain things, fine. But, if you start going into genetics, these are not arguments. These are cheap excuses. They don't explain anything. So I believe people are misled by these 2 training principles. And again, as I said, I think if Dorian didn't do it, he will definitely win more Olympias. He was very, very genetically gifted and also very disciplined, very committed, like no other.
Hello, y'all. Robert Sikes, the founder of the Savage Perspective Podcast, the host of the Savage Perspective Podcast. As y'all know, we do not roll ads throughout the podcast. This is not an ad technically, but I'm going to throw it in there just in case. The reason I don't put ads in here is because I don't want y'all to be distracted with minutes and minutes of just irrelevant content for me to make a buck. That's not good for y'all. I don't want to be inauthentic like that. However, I would be remiss if I didn't point y'all towards a great resource. So all of the guests that I bring onto the show are designed to give y'all insight, give you information, give you value that allows you to optimize your health from a ketogenic standpoint. I've built out a resource that takes everything I've learned over the years as a podcast host, as a professional natural bodybuilder, as a coach in the space, and I've compiled all that into a very, very comprehensive system, which also includes a community, a membership community from an accountability standpoint. It's got a ton of resources like a free workout app. It's got a AI that's built out based off of all of my content, so it's not giving you conflicting information. And the program has over 150 videos that breaks down all the details as to how to manipulate your macros, optimize your metabolism, build muscle, lose fat, all the good stuff that y'all are striving to do. And also, since I don't do ads on the podcast, all of the affiliate discount links that I have for various different brands live in this program as well. That literally pays for the cost in and of itself. So if you're interested in doing a deeper dive, actually using these tools and reaching your highest self, check out ketobodybuilding.com.
From just a sheer injury prevention, longevity standpoint in general, I would assume that doing your protocol with the higher rep counts, lower weights, I mean, you're obviously going to be putting less load on the skeletal structure. You're going to have less likelihood of injury, which is going to give you more years in the sport, which is obviously a massive win. when it comes to intensity, what are you kind of trying to target from an RPE standpoint? Like if you're not going to failure on that last set with that many sets at the lighter weights, what is your typical reps in reserve, so to speak, at the end?
Well, look, I've been training about 45 years, right? I'm 64 now, and people don't believe my age. I don't do anything magic. I don't take any steroids. I'm just doing what I know is the best, and I eat what I know is the best. And this is what I advise my clients. And this is why they have fantastic results. You can read the comments, testimonials. Everywhere you go, you're going to come across that. Success, results, benefit. So this is done thing, right? Now, back to your question, longevity and preservation of joints, connective tissues. There is no need to go all out. There is no need to go to failure. Why? When you do 10 reps, for example, and you stop 1 rep shy of failure, you, first of all, preserve your tendons and your joints because you don't go to failure. You don't expose them. That's number one thing. Number two, if the set is 10 reps and you go to failure, what counts, what are productive repetitions are the last 4. So out of 10, you perform 4 quality reps. They count. If you go all out, this is your 10. Now, if you go 9, instead of 4 quality reps, you will have 3 quality reps. All right? Now, if you go all out, you won't be able to do many sets. Let's say you do bench press all out. Every time I used to go all out, I wouldn't be able to do more than 2 to 3 sets. So you do, let's say, 3 sets. Let's say do you 4 sets. Or let's say for the muscle, the whole muscle, you do 10 sets. If you go all out every sets, you won't be able to do more. So 10 sets times 4 quality reps, this is 40 quality reps. This is what you've earned today if you go all out for 10 sets per muscle group. High risk of injury. Now, let's see what happens if you go 20 sets, not more, 20 sets, not all out. So you did 9 reps. You get 3 quality reps per set, but you did 20. You will end up with 60 quality reps. Compare that to 40. Massive benefit. Another benefit, no risk of injury. So with the first option, you will get less quality sets with very high risk of injury. With the second option, you will get more quality sets with very low risk of injury. Choice is yours.
Makes sense to me.
That's
All right, I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about nutrition. What is your philosophy, big picture? We can get granular with it, but when it comes to nutrition, where do you have, what's your stance on that? Like there's obviously, the conventional bodybuilding bro wisdom is eating every 2 or 3 hours, eating massive amounts of protein, eating quite a bit of carbohydrate. Obviously, they'll drop their fats quite considerably, getting lean for a competition. That's not my philosophy, but what do you kind of predict and do yourself and recommend for your clientele?
Okay. We have to go back to the beginning, as usual. So history is the mother of all sciences, right? That means literally is the mother of all sciences, but also metaphorically. Why? Well, if you look at the history of humanity, if you look at evolution, if you look at human physiology, this is where we learn about nutrition. This is when we learn what our body is made of, what is our physiology, what are our fuels, how did we evolve, how did we manage to continue to exist. This is where we learn about foundation of nutritional foundation. In 2010, I published the book, The Ultimate Nutrition, in which I talk about these things. So once we understand that, everything else is much easier. Bodybuilders are not aliens from different planets. They're still humans, right? And regardless of who you are, Jay Cutler or you or me or some guy on the street, we have the same physiology. We have the same anatomy, the same body systems, and we have physiology which explains to us how our organs and our tissues work. Then you have biochemistry. we react the same to same food, no difference. Homo sapiens exists around 400,000 years. Humans. Some people, we are getting new research all day long, every single day. Some even finding out longer than that. So how did Homo sapiens survive? What did Homo sapiens eat for 400,000 years? There were no grains, right? No bread, no pasta, no rice. Most of these periods were ice ages. No fruit, no vegetables, no goji berries, no strawberries. So what did humans eat? What was staple food for humans for the most of our evolution? Meat. Meat, meat, and meat again. Some people say about fish as well. No. Fish entered human food chain some 50,000 years ago because humans couldn't catch fish. They didn't know how to do it. It was much easier to go and kill a mammoth or some massive animal and then have enough food, enough meat and fat to feed the whole village than to catch fish. Fish enter human nutritional chain 50,000 years ago. But okay, still is there. Now, with the discovery of agriculture, which is 10,000 years ago, which is only a fraction, few percent of human evolution, we started eating grains. And what happened? The only species in nature who developed chronic diseases. No other species in nature have chronic diseases. No single species have any diseases. Only humans have all kinds of diseases. And the major reason for that is introduction of the food to human physiology and biochemistry, which was alien and is still alien to human body. And these are high amounts of carbohydrates. So that applies to bodybuilders. How do we know that? Again, history. We look back retrospectively, 60s, 70s, what people had, what Arnold had, what Serge Nubra had. I met Serge Nubra. I spent months with him. I went in 81 and 82. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I just had to go again in order to prove my dreams. The man would sit down and have 3-pound steak and water and nothing else. No vegetables, no salad, no broccoli, no rice, nothing, just steak. And he would eat 2 or 3 times per day like that. And you know how he looks, how he ended up. There is no bodybuilder after him who looked like that. Not because of his training methods, which are also very, very unique, but because of his diet. Everything started with Vince Gironda, with steak and eggs. Arnold ate like that. Lou Ferrigno ate like that. Frank Zane, everybody ate like that. Every single one of them. You can watch Pumping Iron when they go to the restaurant, 10, 12 of them, all big bodybuilders. They walk in the restaurant and Arnold orders steak and 5 eggs and everybody orders the same. And then Robbie Robinson is trying to take a piece of bread on the table and Arnold will look at him and says, no, 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 no bread. So you see, these little moments, people didn't fake in those days. They didn't have to. You understand, everything was like that. When I started bodybuilding as well, I was all confused, hypnotized with heavy duty because, you lift heavier, you get bigger, stronger you are, bigger you are. Again, not true at all. There are super strong people who are not big at all. And I was eating, as Mike Mentzer advised, 70% carbs, 20% protein, 10% fat. And I ended up being fat. And I didn't know why. I was doing everything right? But actually I was doing everything wrong. And then I remember my first time when I went to see a bodybuilding show and I saw bodybuilders on the stage. I freaked out. I just couldn't believe it. Everybody had 6-pack, split legs. They looked amazing. And I'm like, I don't look like these guys. I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't know, what am I? So then the guy who was already national champion for 15 times, he came at the end as a guest poser, and everybody just went silent because that was something that it was absolutely fascinating to see the body like that. Perfect symmetry, and unbelievable conditioning, definition. So after he finished, I was hypnotized when I saw that. So I thought, you know what? I went to him and I said, listen, I'm absolutely amazed. I can't believe what I've seen. I would like to invite you. I have a gym. I don't live far away. I'm in the town next to this one. And I was just thinking, if you want to be my guest, come over. We can train together. And he said, fantastic. No problem. He said, I have another show very nearby, and that will be perfect for me. So he came over, and obviously I was preparing food for him, and he was preparing for the show. So I said, his name was Fikret Hodzic. And I said, Fikret, what do you eat for breakfast? He said, just fish and eggs. I said, what about porridge? I said, what? I said, porridge. He said, no, you don't eat oats. No oats. You're just fish and eggs. I said, yeah, how much? He said, you know what? Put a whole tray of fish, because I eat that during the day, and then eggs, maybe 20, 30 eggs. And so I did it. So the first meal, he was training in the morning, and then first meal, cod and 5-6 eggs. And that's it. About 300-400 grams of cod and 5-6 eggs. And I was eating my oats, but then halfway through I just stopped. I felt embarrassed. He said to me, that is not for bodybuilders. I don't know why you're eating that. So I just moved my oats away. And then second meal, liver and eggs. Again, 300-400 grams of liver. He was up to 80 kgs though. And 4 or 5 eggs. And the last meal of the day, again, fish and eggs. And this was it. And he said to me, I don't know why I'm complicating. You should eat like me. And that's it. And then I started eventually, and everything changed. I lost a lot of fat, started putting on muscle because lots of eggs and stuff. And there were no carbs at all. And that guy, he would do, I think he was doing 30 to 40 sets every training session. 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. So there is a lot of glycogen to be burned. Where the glycogen comes from, if there are no carbs. So that myth about carbs are necessary for energy, you need carbs for glycogen replenishment. I mean, wait a little bit. Let's go back again. Let's think humans in history. Humans used to fight for their lives, sprint to kill, fight for survival with other tribes, kill big animals. They need a lot of explosive energy. They needed lots of glycogen. So where did they get glycogen from if they never had carbs? Because of something which is called glyconeogenesis. So if you understand what that is, you will understand the human body will always make enough glycogen, always, without carbs. You just need to eat enough protein and enough fat, and the body will turn amino acids and also glycerol as the backbone of triglycerides into glycogen via the process called gluconeogenesis. And that's it. That's the story of human diet, bodybuilding diet. So if you're a big bodybuilder, you need to eat more meat and more eggs, more fish, more chicken. Some people can get well with cheese, so they can eat that as well. You don't have to eat any carbs. You don't have to eat any vegetables, any fruit. You're going to be thriving perfectly. Lots of people do that, and they thrive perfectly. You can eat some vegetables if you want, if you're okay with that. Maybe steamed vegetables or maybe some salads here and there if you like it. Are they going to benefit you? Not at all. Sometimes I do them just to make my food more palatable. But what is the benefit of that? There is nothing. Everything you need, you have in meat, you have in eggs, you have in chicken. I would rather go for chicken legs than chicken breast, because chicken legs have a lot of gelatin in them. So when you cook chicken legs in the tray, there will be a lot of all this connective tissue would melt, and this is something that will give you collagen. When you do chicken breast, there is nothing there. It's pure protein. So if you're eating chicken breast, you need some fat as well. You're better off eating avocado with that, or maybe putting some cheddar on the top of chicken breast before they finish cooking. So you need fat and protein. because in my last video, which actually came out 1 hour ago, in which I talk what happens when you eat a lot of protein but you don't grow muscles. Why is that? So in my last video, I explained that problem. So it's not just how much protein you eat, but how much protein you utilize. I always used to say, you are not what you eat. You are what you absorb. Because you can shovel a
You
lot
gotta
of...
have enough fats.
Yes, because you can put a lot of food in your body, but if you don't absorb it, what is going to happen? So contrary to popular belief, which is not based on any science, of any experience of anything, instead of eating 5-6 times per day, you will be much better eating 2-3 times per day. And in my last video, I actually explained that. Why is that? Because, when you have a spike of glucose when you eat carbohydrates, and then most of it ends up somewhere else, not in the muscle, where it should be muscle cell, the same happens to amino acids. So if you eat every 2 hours, you eat high protein, high carb diet, you have a quick low fat, you have a quick spike of amino acids, the body cannot absorb them, and most of it just goes somewhere else, probably in fat. But if you eat fat and protein, like steak and eggs, for example, then your body will slowly digest it and slowly release it. So you will be having constant supply of amino acids over hours. Nothing will be wasted. So you can eat the same amount of protein, let's say 300 grams of protein, in 3 meals, 100 grams each, or you can eat 6 meals, 50 grams each, and you will absorb more if you eat in 3 meals than if you eat in 6 meals. I didn't discover America. I'm just digging into human physiology as I always did. So these are facts. These are not... I'm not
I'm
selling
glad
anything.
you're saying it. I've been. It's funny because I've been bodybuilding. I don't know. I guess almost 20 years now. And in the first 10 years or 8 years, I did everything conventional, lots of carbohydrates. Having a bunch of high glycemic index carbs immediately post workout to intentionally spike insulin. All the things that people tell you to do. And then I started doing the ketogenic diet back in 2014, 2015, and I've been eating that way exclusively since then. So I haven't had a carb meal in, I guess, almost 11 years now, like no carbs in 11 years. And I've gotten better. I've gotten leaner. I've gotten pro. I've become the leanest man alive at one point. Like I did all that without carbohydrates. I feel better. My joints are better. My mental acuity is better. I'm excited about what the future holds. And I'm like this anomaly, but it's like, I shouldn't be this anomaly. People were eating like this beforehand. This whole advent of carbohydrates and whatnot is relatively new in our existence as a species. So why am I the outlier? It should be the other way around for sure.
Well, you're not the only one, obviously. I'm another one.
It's refreshing.
Yes.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Like it's crazy that we have not connected prior to this, because everything you're saying, like, it's like we're talking the same language. I eat 2 or 3 times a day, and I'll have a massive bolus dose of protein when I do eat, but I have that accompanied with ample dietary fat to slow the absorption rate of that protein. There's a lot of talk about, obviously spiking muscle protein synthesis via ample leucine content, but you don't need to do that 6 or 7 times a day. Like if you're doing that 2 or 3 times a day, in which training also spikes muscle protein synthesis, you don't have to eat every 2 or 3 hours, which is liberating and empowering because you're not a slave to the clock and food timing.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. I mean, I always say to my clients, instead of going, I have to eat every 2 hours, and then you look at the watch and you're getting psyched up and, neurotic about this. Why don't you try to eat when you're hungry? Let your body remind you, oh, I need food. Let your body produce ghrelin. Because when you eat every 2 hours, you're never producing ghrelin, you're never producing leptin, you're never producing anything. You're just putting that food into your system. And if you imagine your system as a long pipe, you need to put that food in the pipe, let it digest, let it come through. When the pipe is clean again and empty, the body will suggest with hunger, I'm ready to eat again. So then you will eat again. So what happens when you start pushing food in the pipe, which is never empty? The food starts rotting within, in the small digestive, small intestine. And obviously it's rotting, so you're not going to be benefiting from that food. You're getting gas, bloated, you're piling on your visceral fat. I mean, wrong, constantly wrong. I used to do that. I ended up fat. I was so hysterical about food. I would go to cinema with my container, 2-3 containers with me, and in the middle of the movie, I would go, 8 o'clock, I have to eat. I would go out, eat my meal, and come back. I went through that. I'm not inventing it. I know what madness that is. And what did I get out of it? I was fat. And then I started eating like this guy who showed me 3 times per day. And everything started changing. I didn't do any cardio. I didn't do nothing like that. I just fixed my food and started training higher volume. Everything changed. Within few months, people thought I was on steroids. I didn't even know what vitamins are. I remember when my friend came and said, "Oh, there's some vitamins. They used to be called Oligovit, multivitamin and mineral tablets." I remember they were like big red round ones. And I said, "What is that all about?" I was already benching like 100 kgs 10, 12 times. I was there eating a lot of protein, completely obsessed with bodybuilding. Everything was going amazing. And then he said to me, "But there are vitamins and minerals, if you use that, you're going to get bigger." I said, "Really?" So I went to the chemist, bought the packet of those. When I opened it, looking like big red round tablets, you take one a day. Oh my God. I mean, the power of placebo is amazing. I took those, when I took the first one, I just felt them growing. I jumped, I don't know what I was doing. I went to the gym. You wouldn't stop me because I had that big red tablet. And people were thinking I'm taking steroids. I didn't even know what vitamins are. So I always say that to my son. So then I started taking 2 a day because I thought if I take more, they were obviously just going through me anyway, wasting them out. But this is the power of placebo. And this is where supplement industry actually gets the most of their customers, not because they're really benefiting from anything. I mean, everything is in food. Just look at egg. Egg is the mystery of nature. Every life, even human life, starts in an egg. Eggs has everything necessary for life, all B vitamins, D, all necessary minerals, essential minerals, amino acids, cholesterol, fat, you name it. Whatever is needed for life is in egg. So you have 5, 6, 10 eggs a day. What supplements do you need? What else is there?
Yeah. I'm in complete agreement. I mean, I don't even, like, I'm an OCD with all of it anyways, and with the Natural Bodybuilding Federation, they test for everything, and there's like this exhaustive banned substance list. So like the only thing I take is electrolytes and creatine, if I remember. That's it,
Electrolytes.
Like I don't have, yeah, see, we're speaking the same language there for sure.
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time, but I do have one more question for you. So you're a doctor of philosophy, right?
Yes.
What focus? Like, what is the major focus with the philosophy?
Well, my first degree in philosophy was on a Nietzsche and Schopenhauer, philosophy of the will. My master's in philosophy were political philosophy. I was very interested in that at that particular time, mainly John Rawls and Robert Nozick and stuff like that. Basically, what we live now, the liberal democracy that we know in the Western world, they were actually finalized by John Rawls and his theory of justice. So that was the period when I really went deep into that. And my PhD was on Nietzsche's ethics and aesthetics. Basically, I'm arguing that his ethics and aesthetics are one and the same thing. So there is no difference between Friedrich Nietzsche's ethics and aesthetics. And yes, all my life I was very much involved in philosophy. This was my academic upbringing. But at the same time, I studied on my own accord, obviously, anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, biochemistry. I also have a degree in clinical nutrition. That was another one. And yes, I was constantly, interested in knowledge. So philosophy teaches you wisdom. Science teaches you how to think. I was always very scientific. I was always trying to be as wise as possible as well. So bodybuilding is part of that story. I didn't start first bodybuilding and then philosophy. First, I started philosophy, and I was always interested in optimizing my human existence. From the very early age, I realized that we exist as physical entities spiritual entities, and intellectual entities. So I wanted to optimize every single area of my human existence. I wanted to be as intellectual as possible, as spiritual as possible, and I wanted to perfect myself as a physical entity. And this is why I couldn't find anything better than bodybuilding. So once I entered bodybuilding, I understood how complicated that is, because you have to deal with anatomy, biomechanics, physiology, biochemistry, nutrition. So that was an intellectual challenge for me. This is why I wanted to know all of it. So I started piling. You see, my library is massive. Half of it is all philosophy. Another half is all anatomy and physiology and sports science and similar. So I wanted to know those things, right? And more I learned, better I got. So then I published myself so far 12 books. And people are benefiting greatly from them, because they are learning things they never heard before. And as a lot of people like to say after watching my videos, he says, you always come straight to the point. You're not going around and around and around as most other people do. Like, why would I? I mean, if I have your time and listening to me, I'm going to tell you something important, and people are appreciating that. So that has been the story of my YouTube experience, which I really started doing actively some year and a half ago. Although I started 18 years ago, but I would post one video every 2-3 months or something like that. So it was just, I didn't even know why I did it. But the last year and a half, I started doing it more seriously. So obviously, more people are coming, and I try to help as many as possible. So far, I think is great, and I'm very grateful to all of them who are appreciating my work, and also to you inviting me to your channel. And I hope that a lot of your viewers will benefit from our discussion, because this is the way to go. I mean, if there was anything better, trust me, I would do it.
Yeah, no, I agree on all fronts. I've always said that, true fulfillment in life comes from serving others, your fellow family, friends, community, God at your highest capacity. And you can only do that if you are fully functioning in the vessel that you are blessed with, your body, your physical body. Like, everything is amplified on a higher level if that is in tune with what your true capacity is. And I think bodybuilding, especially as a natural bodybuilder, like paying attention to the food you're eating, pay attention to moving your body, operating in the sense of longevity, health, wellness, well-being, like, it's just a perfect symbiotic relationship. It allows you to serve others and just be more in everything that you pursue in life. And I feel like with the short amount of time that we are blessed with on this planet, that is our sole responsibility, to make the most of it and help as many people and leave the world a better place than we found it. So I think bodybuilding allows for that in a very natural way. So I really appreciate what you're doing, the message you're putting out there. I would love to get you back on the podcast, because I feel like I could talk to you for another 4 hours, and we would have plenty to talk about. But until we do a follow-up episode, where do people go to find you in the meantime? What is your YouTube channel? Where do they go to dive deeper into your world?
Well, simply Dr. Nash Jocic, and they will find me on YouTube channel. If you put a link on this video, they will obviously go through that link. My website is nashfittraining.com, and they can see everything, what I do, what I offer there. They can see this before and after story of so many people on my website. And yes, it's very, very easy. Whoever is willing, is very easy to find me. Just type my name on Google, and you will get more than you need.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I would definitely link out, make it easy for people to find you. Like I've said from the get-go, we are speaking the same language, marching to the same drum for sure. So keep fighting the good fight. And if there's ever anything I can do to help, by all means, let me know. Let's definitely have another one of these conversations, though, for sure.
Thank you very much for having me. And also thank you, everybody watching this podcast. And definitely, yeah, we should come again together.
Awesome. Well, until then, thanks again. And we'll keep in touch for sure. Appreciate you, Dr. Nash.
Thank you. Thank you.